Incredible moment. Single dad brings child to interview. What the CEO revealed changed everything. Jake stood at the mirror, adjusting his shirt, rehearsing lines that felt foreign in his mouth. The smell of grease lingered in his nostrils, a stark reminder of the mechanic's shop he called home. Today, though, was different. Today, there was hope, a chance to rewrite a future that had shattered like glass when his wife walked out, leaving him with nothing but a little boy and a fragile dream. Ethan would be his sidekick, clutching that worn drawing pad filled with their life together. "Dad, can I come?" Those big, innocent eyes pleading with him were more than he could resist, despite the seriousness of the meeting that awaited them. As they drove, tension coiled around Jake's chest. Ethan chattered excitedly about robots and spaceships, the sketches of their shared life spilling out of his mind. Jake felt a swell of pride and fear. His son believed in him. But could he truly step into a world dominated by confident suits, slicked-back hair, and dismissive attitudes? Self-doubt gnawed at him, twisting his stomach into tight knots. Could he compete in a realm he didn't belong to? Arriving at the sleek office building, Jake felt even more out of place. Glass doors reflected the image of the man he wished he could be, a figure weighed down by exhaustion, worry, and unfulfilled ambition. The stark contrast between his rumpled clothes and the polished ambiance sent his mind spiraling. In mere minutes, that emotional haze thickened, reinforcing thoughts of inadequacy. What if they saw through him? Who would hire a mechanic? The nagging fear drowned out Ethan's innocent excitement. While waiting, his mind raced through a whirlwind of thoughts. If he faltered, if he stumbled over words, what would that mean for Ethan? Was he setting an example of failure instead of perseverance? His breath faltered, heart raced, as a sleek man in a tailored suit stepped into the room. The CEO. That air of authority was suffocating, and Jake felt small. He stumbled through his introduction, trying to project confidence. Yet doubt snaked its way through every word he spoke, leaving him frustrated and desperate. The dreams of providing more than just the basics surged in his mind. Education, adventure, a real childhood. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Caught in a moment of despair, he caught sight of Ethan quietly drawing in the corner. The serious atmosphere veiled the connection they shared, but Jake felt an undeniable pull. His son stood, walked over to the CEO, and shyly offered his drawing. A father and son depicted in vibrant crayon, captioned, "We are a team." Silence enveloped the room. Jake's heart swelled with embarrassment and pride, watching Ethan's spark of bravery as he introduced a piece of their world to a stranger. Just as a genuine connection began to bloom, the CEO's expression shifted, revealing a vulnerability that mirrored Jake's own. It was in that moment that Jake realized the unspoken weight they both shared, the fear, the struggle, the drive to change their fate. But somewhere in that emotional intimacy, Jake sensed a dark shadow lurking, a fragment of the CEO's life that could threaten their brief alliance. As revelations loomed ahead, Jake stood on the edge of not just a career shift, but profound revelation. Could they mend their fractured paths, or would the push and pull of their haunted pasts tear them apart again? In this storm of tension, hope flickered amid the uncertainty, leaving Jake grappling with a question that could upend everything. Was he strong enough to embrace this chance? Jake's heart pounded in his chest, a chaotic rhythm echoing the turmoil of thoughts racing through his mind. This was not merely an interview. It felt like a crossroads, a pivotal moment where he could redefine not only his future but Ethan's as well. The CEO, a complex mix of authority and relatability, stared back at him, weighing the sincerity in Jake's unsteady gaze. Tell me, Jake, the CEO began, his voice steady like polished steel. What drives you? The question cut through the tension, carving a path for truth. Jake opened his mouth but hesitated, caught between instinct and uncertainty. What drove him? Not ambition for wealth or status, but the simple, fundamental need to provide. A drive rooted in love, hurt, and now a burgeoning hope. I want to give my son a life where he feels secure and limitless, Jake finally stated, the gravity of his words settling in the air. In the background, he noticed Ethan, eyes wide with expectation, perhaps understanding more than Jake realized. That encouraged confidence slowly began to replace the weight clinging to Jake's shoulders, shifting his perspective. "And what skills do you bring to the table?" The CEO leaned forward, his expression softening. The challenge was clear, and Jake felt a surge of determination wash over him. He recalled the late nights in the shop, all the failures converted into lessons learned, and then onto small victories. A radiator fixed, a car saved, a mother relieved because she could still drive her children to school. "I'm a mechanic," Jake replied, allowing a hint of pride into his voice. "But I'm also a problem solver. Every challenge in the shop has taught me more than how to fix cars. It's taught me resilience, resourcefulness, and how to think on my feet." The CEO nodded, a flicker of intrigue crossing his face. Jake pressed on, fueled by the moment. "Each day brought new hurdles, and I had to adapt. It's just like being a single dad. You learn to roll with the punches, to find solutions amidst chaos." The office around them faded momentarily. Jake's heightened sense of purpose took over. As he spoke, he could see Ethan drawing from the corner of his eye, immersed in his little world, yet somehow a part of this exchange. Jake's heart swelled with newfound resolve. "Bringing my life experiences into the corporate world isn't just a transition, it's an evolution. I want to be more than just a cog in a machine. I want to bridge worlds, to innovate, and to work collaboratively. We face a crossroads, you and I believe my unique perspective can take us somewhere new." The CEO's brow furrowed, and silence stretched between them. Was there surprise there, or perhaps recognition? Jake felt the weight of expectation. It was his moment to connect. "I think you're onto something, Jake," the CEO finally said. "But it's not just about your skills. It'll require trust, vulnerability, and the willingness to take risks." "I know what it means to take risks," Jake replied, defending his honesty with a conviction that rivaled even the CEO's. "I risked everything when I became a father. Every day, I navigate that vulnerability, and I'm ready to tackle what comes next." Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. A challenge loomed. The CEO's eyes narrowed slightly, and an intriguing tension loaded the air. "Then you'll need to prove it. There's something you should know about the role you're applying for." Before he could finish, Ethan looked up, his voice cutting through the unyielding seriousness. "Dad, if you go to work, can I help?" Jake's heart clenched. It was the perfect, yet innocently raw reminder of why he was sitting in that office. The question hung in the air like an unvoiced agreement between them. Pursuing this opportunity meant weaving their lives together in a new tapestry of shared experience, trust, and growth. The CEO smiled slightly, breaking the tension. "That's the spirit. And yes, kid, teamwork is vital." Jake felt a shift within himself. The conversation had opened doors he couldn't have imagined just moments before. But as realization dawned, uncertainty loomed larger. What awaited him on the other side of this opportunity? Could he still shield Ethan from the fallout? Jake inhaled deeply, determined to embrace whatever revelation lay ahead. Still, a stirring thought tugged at him. Was he truly prepared for the weight of this choice? Each layer peeled back brought clarity and additional questions. What would this journey demand of him? With these crossroads converging, choices now loomed over him like shadows, beckoning him to confront the unknown. The embers of possibility glowed brighter, yet he couldn't shake the feeling that his past was still lurking just behind him, ready to affect this newfound path. The question remained: could he march forward unburdened, or would the ghosts of his choices follow him still? Jake felt the weight of the CEO's gaze on him, a blend of curiosity and scrutiny that pressed against the walls of his resolve. The air had turned electric, his earlier confidence a fragile thread that could snap at any moment. The line between opportunity and risk had blurred, and he had to decide how he would respond. The CEO's casual demeanor shifted slightly, as if he had decided to peel back the layers of Jake's resolve. "You have conviction," he remarked, his voice steady yet probing. "But convictions alone won't cut it in this field. You'll face challenges that will test you to your core. When that time comes, how will you respond?" Jake's mind raced. He had surmounted countless obstacles, but they all paled in comparison to the stakes now. "I will confront them head-on," Jake affirmed, the words bursting forth with a conviction he hadn't anticipated. "I've learned that running away only prolongs the suffering. Facing fears, being vulnerable, is how we grow." There was a silence as the CEO considered his response, the weight of the moment charging the space between them. Jake felt an unfamiliar confidence surge within him, igniting the embers of possibility into a flame. No longer was he just a mechanic. He saw himself as an agent of change, ready to embrace the unknown. "Good," the CEO replied, a hint of respect forming in his tone. "But this isn't just about you." He nodded toward Ethan, who was now quietly exploring the office space, oblivious to their conversation. "It's about ensuring you don't just rise, but that you rise while carrying those you love with you." The simplicity of that statement resonated deeply within Jake, anchoring him amidst the whirlwind of uncertainty. He realized he had lived his life often in the shadows of doubt, long held back by the fear of inadequacy, of failure. Yet here was an opportunity to transform that mindset, to embrace a new narrative built on resilience for both him and Ethan. "Tell me about a time you failed," the CEO prompted, watching him with keen interest. The request stung momentarily, pulling Jake back to memories he would rather forget. But as he grappled with his past, he recognized that vulnerability would be his greatest asset. "I've had several setbacks," Jake began, his voice steadier than he expected. "But the most significant was when I almost lost the shop. It was a mix-up in managing our cash flow. Bills piled up, and I had to make hard decisions. But instead of hiding, I faced my clients directly. I owned my mistakes, sought their understanding, and found solutions together. It taught me that every failure can be a learning opportunity if handled with honesty." The CEO nodded, visibly intrigued. "That's insightful, and it shows you have a grasp on collaboration." "Exactly," Jake continued, the rhythm of his thoughts picking up momentum. "It's not just about fixing cars. It's about connecting with people, understanding their stories, and being part of a solution that benefits everyone." As the conversation deepened, Jake's earlier anxieties began to dissolve, replaced by a burgeoning sense of purpose. The dialogue was opening his eyes to dimensions of himself he had yet to explore. This was not just about a job. It was about a journey intertwining personal growth and professional evolution. But with every realization came a new fear, a nagging question about whether he had enough in him. It curled in the back of his mind, a persistent whisper haunting his confidence. Could he truly step into a corporate role after a lifetime in a garage? Ethan jumped back into his peripheral vision, his innocent curiosity grounding him. Jake's heart twisted in a reminder that this was not just his journey, it was a family affair. A split moment of fear clashed with a sweet sense of realization. "Dad," Ethan suddenly exclaimed, running back toward him with a small mechanical toy he had found. "Look, it's a car!" His eyes shone with excitement, and it struck Jake how much this moment mirrored his own journey, finding joy and purpose in curious exploration. "That's awesome, buddy," Jake responded, a smile breaking across his face. In that moment, he understood something profound. This wasn't just an interview. It was a foundation on which he could build the life they both envisioned. "Jake," the CEO interjected, pulling him back from his reverie. "Are you ready to make this leap into the unknown? To transform not only your career but your entire life? Because what awaits won't be easy, but the rewards could be monumental." A storm of thoughts surged through Jake. Fear mingled with excitement. Doubts battled with determination. He took a breath, squared his shoulders, and met the CEO's gaze. "I'm ready." As the words left his lips, a hush fell over the room, wrapping him in a moment of clarity. Was he truly prepared for what lay ahead, or was he stepping into a world where he may find himself stretched beyond recognition? The uncertainty loomed, echoing the transformating power of his choice. And just as he contemplated the full weight of that decision, a text notification blipped on his phone. Ethan's mother, sourcing the past they had both tried to escape from, ready to resurface. How would he navigate the aftermath of that unexpected revelation? Jake's heart raced as he glanced at the phone screen, the familiar name sending a jolt of anxiety through him. Ethan's mother, the last person he expected to hear from now of all times. He had anticipated a future built on the foundation of his freshly ignited opportunities, and yet here came the shadow of his past, uninvited. "Excuse me for a moment," Jake said apologetically. His tone clipped as he swiped to open the message. The CEO's expression shifted briefly, a flicker of understanding crossing his face as he observed the internal battle unfolding within Jake. "Take your time," he replied, his tone a mixture of patience and concern. Jake thumbed through the message. Could it be an emergency? A plea for reconciliation? He felt a rush of old emotions, the shared dreams that had once held them together, and the painful reality that led to their separation. But now, unlike before, Jake sensed a burgeoning strength within him, the kind that had been hidden beneath layers of fear and self-doubt. "Just checking in to see how Ethan's doing. It's been a while." The words felt heavy, laden with unfulfilled promises and unresolved history. Taking a deep breath, Jake gathered himself. This was the perfect opportunity to assert himself, not as a victim of circumstance, but as a man who was redefining his life. He texted back, "Ethan is doing great. He's excited about what's next. We're building something new." He hit send, a weight lifting. It was a small act, but it felt monumental, taking a step toward closure and away from the lingering specters of past mistakes. As he looked up, he caught the CEO studying him. "You're navigating complex waters," the CEO said, a knowing look in his eyes. "You seem to understand that life is rarely just a straight path." Jake nodded, feeling the gravity of his realization. Life was always a series of interconnections, moments where past decisions echoed in the present. Every experience, positive or negative, was a stepping stone. "I've come to see setbacks as setups for growth," he responded, his voice laced with newfound assurance. "They've shaped who I am today." The CEO leaned back, his demeanor transforming into one of engaged interest. "What biographical pieces do you think will shape your future in this new role?" It was the probing question Jake hadn't anticipated, but something jolted within him. He realized he wasn't just walking into the corporate landscape with a mechanic's toolbox. He was bringing a lifetime of experiences shaped by resilience. "Every obstacle has taught me flexibility. In the shop, I learned how to pivot quickly when a car threw a curveball, but on a personal level, it taught me to be more than just reactive. I learned to adapt and innovate." The CEO smiled, recognizing the depth of Jake's words. "Sounds like you're ready to tackle not just machines, but people's complexities too. Emotionally intelligent leaders aren't merely problem solvers. They inspire trust and foster collaboration. Would you say you're capable of that? Jake's heart swelled with certainty. Yes, absolutely. My experience in the shop isn't just about fixing things. It's about knowing the worry in a client's voice, the trust they place in me to deliver. That's where I find real strength. The conversation flowed, and Jake felt himself evolving with each word exchanged. The burdens he'd carried for so long began to lift, replaced by an invigorating sense of purpose. As they wrapped up the discussion, the CEO looked at Jake and said, "You're on the brink of a pivotal transition. I can see it. Remember, your past will come knocking. It's inevitable. But it's how you respond that will define you." Jake felt a wave of determination wash over him. He would face whatever came next, a conversation with Ethan's mother, the transition into corporate life, every challenge with the courage he had begun to unearth within himself. "Thank you for the insight," Jake replied earnestly as he stood to shake the CEO's hand, sealing a moment that felt like a turning point. Once outside, Jake took a deep breath, aware that he carried more than he had ever imagined possible. As he reached for Ethan, whose eyes sparkled with hopeful anticipation, Jake knew that this journey was about more than just him. It was about creating a legacy and reconnecting with the vast potential life had to offer. Just then, a notification pinged again. Another text? Was it Ethan's mother again? This time, the familiar unease coiled in his gut. He peered at the message, dread settling in for what lay ahead. The content could alter everything he had begun to rebuild. What awaited him this time? Jake's pulse quickened as he gazed at the new message. It was an uncertain invitation, tinged with memories he had hoped to leave behind. For a brief moment, he felt the weight of all that had transpired. His desire to embrace the present clashed with the apprehension of confronting the past. "Dad, are you okay?" Ethan's voice broke through the haze, his innocent concern grounding Jake. The boy's bright eyes searched his face for reassurance. Jake took a breath, recognizing that this moment wasn't just about him. It was a lesson in resilience for Ethan, too. "I am, buddy. Just processing some things." He shifted his focus to the road ahead, reminding himself that he had the capacity to navigate both the unexpected and the familiar. "Let's go home and talk." As he drove, thoughts swirled. He reflected on the message, wondering if this was a chance for forgiveness or just a reopening of old wounds. The change in his life had sparked an undeniable momentum. It was time he faced what lay ahead with new perspectives. Age-old regrets had no room in the life he was forging. Back at the apartment, Jake paced the living room. Ethan perched on the couch and focused on a video game. Each ping from his phone exacerbated Jake's uncertainty. Finally, the phone buzzed again. It was Ethan's mother with a simple but heavy request. "Can we talk? Just the two of us." That moment crystallized his decision. He would communicate clearly and set boundaries. His heart raced at the thought, the adrenaline mingling with anticipation. "Ethan," he called gently, hoping to bring his son into the conversation. "You might hear from your mom soon. I think it's time for us to discuss some things. How do you feel about that?" Ethan paused his game, his brow furrowing slightly. "Do you think she wants to come home?" Jake knelt beside him, wanting to shield him from any additional heartache. "I think she just wants to talk, and I want you to know that whatever happens, we're in this together." Ethan nodded, the seriousness of the moment settling in. "Okay, Dad." That evening, Jake prepared for the conversation weighing on him. He envisioned potential scenarios, the hopeful reconnection, and also the possibility of it going sideways. He assembled thoughts and feelings like moving pieces on a chessboard, contemplating each possible outcome. As he projected his past grievances onto the objectivity of his emotions, clarity began to shine through. The grievances had shaped him, but they would not define him. The true measure of his growth rested not in denying feelings, but in processing them with strength. Finally, he sat down to text Ethan's mother, ready to establish clarity. "I'm open to talking, but I want to make sure we stay focused on what's best for Ethan." His fingers trembled slightly as he pressed send, aware that this could alter the dynamics of their relationship. After sending the message, Jake felt lighter, like a kite released into a clear sky. It was a step, not just to address unresolved past desires, but to model for Ethan what accountability and courage looked like. He turned to see Ethan engrossed in his game, and a wave of gratitude washed over him. Their shared moments were proving to be profound lessons in love and strength. His inner work was not just about rebuilding, it was about instilling confidence in his son. Before bed, Jake watched Ethan asleep, his chest rising and falling. In that serene moment, he reflected on the future, a future that could hold maturity, understanding, and even the possibility of reconciliation. A buzz from his phone caught his attention. Another message from Ethan's mother. Had she replied so quickly? Jake's heart raced, but this time it was not driven by fear. It felt charged with hopeful anticipation. He opened the message, ready to face whatever revelations awaited him, aware that the real challenge lay in how he would respond to her revelations. Now, poised at the edge of transformation, Jake wondered, what truth would emerge from this encounter? And how would it shape the path he was forging for himself and Ethan? Jake's fingers hovered over the screen as he read the message from Ethan's mother. Each word seemed to carry the weight of their shared history, a maze of moments that felt both familiar and foreign. He read it again, letting the implications sink in. She wanted to meet him. Soon. The thought of face-to-face confrontation sent a shiver through him. He had risked vulnerability by reaching out, setting boundaries. Now he needed to gather the courage to respond, not just to her, but to the person he was becoming. He wanted to be a man defined by integrity, someone who wouldn't shy away from difficult conversations. Taking a deep breath, he set his phone down. There was more to this than maintaining a dialogue for Ethan's sake. It was about shedding old resentments. He decided he would not just react, he would prepare mentally and emotionally. He would do more than survive the encounter. He would thrive. Jake picked up a notepad and a pen, allowing himself to pour out thoughts. Bullet points formed under headings, topics to address, fears, and goals. This wasn't merely a preparation for a conversation, it was a declaration of his growth. As he wrote, he felt a surge of determination, a yearning for clarity, not just for himself, but also as a model for Ethan, ignited within him. By night's end, he had drafted a list brimming with ideas that focused on open communication and, crucially, Ethan's well-being. Jake wanted to understand her perspective, yet maintain the ground he had gained in shaping a stable life for their son. The next morning, he discovered that his resolve also needed to reflect on other facets of his life. Confident that he could navigate his emotional turmoil, he decided it was time to apply this new mindset professionally. He spent hours preparing for the presentation he had been procrastinating. Focusing on his aspirations, a plan materialized. His business ideas had been swirling in his mind like a tempest. Now, with newfound clarity, he would present them. At work, Jake's colleagues could sense a change in him. The usual doubts that clouded his expression were replaced with an unyielding focus. As he stood in front of the team, words rushed forth. He painted a picture of innovation, empowering their collective contributions. He engaged his coworkers in ways he hadn't before, inviting feedback and suggestions. They responded with enthusiasm, fueled by Jake's energetic resolve. He could feel the momentum building, not only in the presentation, but within himself as well. Later, as he grabbed coffee during a break, a thought knotted in his stomach. What if the meeting with Ethan's mother unraveled all the effort he was investing professionally? The duality of personal and professional challenges seemed overwhelming. Yet, this was the very challenge he had to face. Embracing the fear of losing what he had worked towards, or showing vulnerability through open dialogue. He hesitated at the door of the break room, recalling Ethan's trusting demeanor when he said, "Whatever happens, we're in this together." The mantra echoed in his mind, anchoring him. Jake realized he could be both a father working on his new path and a partner confronting unresolved past issues. Each role informed the other. As the workday concluded and he retreated to the sanctuary of his home, a message alert interrupted his thoughts. He scrunched his brow, his heart pounding. Could it be her? Curiosity and dread intertwined, quickening his pulse. What would this message entail, and would it propel him deeper into transformation or plunge him into chaos? With anticipation and trepidation, Jake opened the message, feeling the weight of a decision that could alter the course of everything he was striving to build. Would he meet both the complexity of reconciliation and personal reinvention head-on, or allow fear to dictate his path? The moment was here, and he was ready to confront whatever awaited him. Jake's breath caught as he read the message on his phone. It was an invitation from Ethan's mother, her request echoing loud and clear in his mind. A meeting was imminent, and despite the anticipation swirling in his gut, he felt an unmistakable resolve. This was no longer merely about their son. It was about confronting the shadows of his past and stepping into the light of his own reality. As he prepared for bed, Jake replayed the day in his mind. The presentation went better than he had hoped, his colleagues engaged and responsive. But while professional boundaries were gradually solidifying, the specter of his personal life loomed large, drawing a stark line between the man he was at work and the man grappling with fear at home. Clarity became an obsession. He understood that strength lay not just in the attainment of goals, but in the promise he'd made to himself, to live authentically. And that meant confronting the discomfort of old wounds. The next day broke with a muted glow. Jake hardly tasted breakfast, caught instead in a cycle of mental rehearsals. He rolled the meeting's potential dialogues in his head, mapping out various scenarios filled with emotions he wasn't ready to share. Each possibility was laden with stakes, both personal and professional. Would he slip back into defensiveness, or could he navigate their complex shared history with courage? When he reached the cafe, the scent of brewed coffee wrapped around him, offering a brief comfort. He ordered his drink, then spotted a family sitting together. A father holding his son's hand, sharing laughter over pastries. That image pierced through his apprehension, forcing him to remember his own motivations. He wanted to be the father who took responsibility, the man who made amends, not just for Ethan, but for himself. Jake's heart raced at the thought of the impending meeting, forged from the same warmth evidenced at that table. With newfound purpose, he shifted his thought process. If he were to engage with Ethan's mother constructively, he would need to let go of the urge to assign blame or revisit past grievances. Instead, it was imperative to turn the spotlight on solutions and healing. These ideas spiraled through him, imbued with a sense of hope. The forthcoming conversation could be an opportunity, a path to reconciliation for himself, Ethan, and even for her. As the hour approached, he felt his pulse quicken. Jake arrived at the meeting spot, a modest park bench near their old neighborhood. Nature was alive around him, a stark contrast to the internal turmoil he felt. He closed his eyes for a moment, breathing deeply, centering himself before the confrontation. A figure emerged from the path. It was her. Despite the warmth of the sun, a chill ran through him at the sight. The emotional weight of their history pressed against his chest, reminding him of the resentments he'd struggled to release. Would she have the same resolve? She approached, and they exchanged greetings. Jake sensed the vulnerability in her demeanor, mirroring his own. The dialogue began with tentative sentences, awkward pauses punctuating the air. Yet, beneath the surface, Jake recognized that both of them were steering toward the truth. With each word exchanged, he implored himself to stay focused, to remain open-hearted, even when dredging up memories that still stung. To his surprise, a realization surfaced amid their conversation. Ethan had always been the bridge between them, the one constant driving their need to communicate. Just as Jake began to articulate his fears and desires, the conversation shifted. Suddenly, she revealed a truth about why they had their disagreements. The unexpected twist struck him like lightning, confirmation of all he had felt but feared to voice. They were both victims of circumstance, the choices made never truly reflecting their intentions. Shaking off the potent mix of disbelief and understanding, Jake wondered what implications this new perspective would have for him, both as a father and a man still carving his future. But with this breakthrough came another layer of complexity. Jake sensed deeper issues lurking under the surface, led by motivations he hadn't yet addressed. The confrontation about Ethan was far from over, and as they sat on that park bench, shadows lengthened, similar to those that had defined the lives they had shared. Questions loomed in his mind. How could he balance moving forward with confronting the pain of the past? Was he truly ready to embrace the vulnerability this newfound wisdom required? The moment felt electric, pregnant with tension, as they each grappled with their realities. As she spoke again, it became clear that Jake stood on the edge of something profoundly transformative. He wasn't merely redefining his relationship with her, he was redefining himself. The implications of this shift swirled like currents around him. Would he be able to sustain the changes he envisioned? What would it really mean to step forward without the baggage of resentment tethering him to yesterday? Just as he was ready to respond, the words caught in his throat. There was more to uncover, more to face. What lay ahead was uncharted, and the decisions made could shape everything they had searched for. Would he embrace the unknown, embarking on a journey toward resolution and self-discovery? Or would fear keep him anchored? As the sun dipped beneath the horizon, Jake felt the ground shift beneath him, a reminder that the journey was just beginning. Uncertainty intertwined with hope as he braced himself for what would come next. Jake's mind buzzed with the weight of their conversation as they parted ways. Each step away from the park bench felt heavier, almost as if he were carrying an unseen burden. The light of the setting sun illuminated the path ahead, a blend of warm orange and cool blue. He was no longer just navigating the complexities of co-parenting, but was grappling with a deeper, more profound battle within himself. His eyes drifted.
Well, they say the sky is blue because of the way that light comes from the sun through our atmosphere and reflects off different surfaces. Sunlight is a whole bunch of different colors. He longed to experience that kind of innocence, the untainted joy that once colored his childhood. Could he reclaim that vibrant part of himself, or had life's decisions painted it over with regret? At home, Jake paced the living room, grappling with his emotions. Inspiration struck him, igniting a newfound desire to channel his energy into something productive. He grabbed his laptop, determined to put his thoughts into writing. Reflection was crucial, he reminded himself. He had to sift through the chaos of the past to pen a better narrative about his future. As he typed vigorously, the words flowed out, revealing anxieties and hopes he hadn't yet articulated. The screen flickered alive with projections of who he wanted to become: a better father, a man unrestrained by the shackles of his past, and a professional willing to embrace vulnerability. Writing became a cathartic release, allowing him to orchestrate fragmented emotions into a coherent melody of growth. The next day at work, with his manuscript incomplete but his spirit reignited, Jake noticed his colleagues with renewed clarity. There was an unmistakable energy in the office, a collaborative vibe invigorating the mundane. Sensing this atmosphere, he decided to lean into it, seeking opportunities to contribute positively. What if collective creativity could redefine their project? He scheduled an impromptu team meeting, proposing brainstorming sessions, inviting everyone to voice opinions without fear of judgment. There he was, a conduit for their ideas, a position he had always shied away from. As voices chimed in, Jake felt a wave of empowerment surging through him. This was collaboration at its finest, two-dimensional insecurities dissolving against the three-dimensional fabric of teamwork. Yet, amidst the euphoria of shared ideas, doubts began to creep back in. How would he handle the inevitable criticism? The thought momentarily paralyzed him, but he quickly pushed it aside. This was not merely about professional accolades. It was about reclaiming his identity,
tugging at threads that led back to his family ties. Invigorated by that realization, Jake plunged into the task with greater fervor. Over the weeks, he continued to document his feelings, but he also learned to share fragments of his journey with his team. He revealed insecurities, his intention to reconcile with his past, and the responsibility he felt toward Ethan. Slowly, he noticed a shift. Barriers crumbled as colleagues responded with kindness and vulnerability of their own. But just as the workplace became a sanctuary, Jake's resolve was tested by Ethan's upcoming school event. Would he be ready to face both his son and his fears in a public arena? The thought stirred a sense of unease, evoking memories of his past failures. A fear of disappointing Ethan loomed above him like an ominous cloud. The more he reflected on his road ahead, the clearer it became. He had leapt into the unknown with his professional life, but how could he apply that same willingness to the most important relationship in his life? Whatever dynamic they had established before could no longer suffice. They needed to build something new, fortified with honesty and understanding. As Jake walked to the car that evening, preparing for the first school event he'd attend in years, he found himself unsure but emboldened. He wanted to step onto the ground, claiming the role he had long resisted, an active participant in Ethan's life. What awaited him at that school event gave him pause. Would facing the ghosts of his past leave him paralyzed, or would it bestow him with the strength to transcend? The promise of connection with Ethan was palpable, but a fear lingered. Was he ready for whatever this moment might reveal? With each step toward that familiar school entrance, Jake was teetering on the precipice of a breakthrough. Would he falter or find unwavering strength? As he pushed against the threshold, he sensed that today's confrontation might just redefine their relationship, setting the course for their future together. The school's entrance loomed ahead, a portal of emotional challenge and opportunity. Jake took a deep breath, steadying the whirlwind in his chest. He pushed the door open, the sound of laughter and chatter spilling out like an invitation. Parents and children mingled, the atmosphere vibrant yet intimidating. As he stepped further inside, Jake glanced around, searching for Ethan amidst the sea of familiar faces. Memories of past gatherings flashed through his mind, moments tainted by self-doubt and inadequacy. But this time was different. He was no longer just a shadow lurking on the fringes. Steeling himself, he navigated through the crowd, seeking out his son with purpose. Finally, he spotted Ethan, his face beaming as he played with his friends. Jake's heart swelled, but it quickly twisted into anxiety. Would their connection survive the years of distance? This was not just a reunion, but a barometer of how far they had both come, and how much further they had to go. Ethan caught sight of him and bolting over. "Dad, you made it!" The joy in his voice cut through Jake's apprehensions, igniting a flicker of confidence. They embraced tightly, the warmth of his son's love washing over him like spring rain. "Of course, I wouldn't miss it for the world," Jake replied, forcing a cheerful grin despite the chaos swirling in his mind. As the event unfolded, art displays, musical performances, and excited chatter about various projects, Jake observed Ethan with keen interest. He was no longer just an observer. He contributed to conversations, engaged with other parents, and initiated small talk instead of retreating into silence. It felt liberating to be involved, to let down the walls he had built around himself. Yet, as the spotlight turned toward them, a group of children preparing to present a project, Jake felt a familiar squeeze of apprehension. The moment was about to unveil truths he had avoided for too long. He watched Ethan, filled with pride at his son's eagerness, but also beset by the fear of failure. What if he let him down again? "Dad, can you help me with our presentation?" Ethan's voice jolted him from his spiral of worry. "Yeah, of course. What do you need?" Jake responded, trying to mask the tremor of uncertainty that threatened to surface. As he helped Ethan arrange the materials and practice the presentation, he was struck by a realization. Here was an opportunity to not only be a supportive parent, but also to be vulnerable, to show Ethan that it was okay to be afraid, to make mistakes, and to grow from them. As they approached the moment of truth, Jake's heart raced. Responsibility loomed heavy. He was not just representing himself, but also standing for the promise of their future relationship. This was a test of his willingness to be open, to share his aspirations, and to ask for forgiveness where it was due. When it was their turn to present, Jake stood alongside Ethan, feeling the palpable energy in the air. They began, and with each word, he felt more grounded. There was clarity in sharing not just the facts of the project, but also the emotions woven into it. It was okay to express fear and excitement. They were both part of the journey. As the applause showered over them at the end, Jake locked eyes with Ethan. The pride reflected in his son's gaze was electrifying, pushing back the doubt that had plagued him. They had done this together, demonstrating the true essence of partnership. But just as they were basking in the achievement, a voice cut through the applause. "Jake, can I talk to you for a moment?" It was the principal, a stern expression etched across his features. As Jake reluctantly walked closer, the weight of uncertainty settled over him once again. What had he done wrong? Fear gripped him anew as the principal's words hung in the air. "Can we discuss your involvement with the school moving forward?" This was not merely a conversation about their project. It held implications for his new role in both Ethan's life and his own. Jake's mind buzzed with confusion and anticipation. What opportunities or challenges were awaiting him? He took a deep breath, adrenaline surging. He had embraced vulnerability today, but was he ready for the next leap? The answer might redefine his path forward, not just as a father, but as the man he aspired to become. Jake stood outside the principal's office, his heart pounding like a drum against the walls of his chest. The past few weeks had been a whirlwind of self-discovery and transformation. He had put himself out there, emotionally and professionally, embracing vulnerability and growth. Yet as he faced the looming uncertainty of this encounter, old fears threatened to resurface, making him hesitate. When the principal beckoned him to enter, Jake squared his shoulders, preparing to confront whatever awaited him inside. This was not just about a conversation regarding Ethan, but a pivotal moment that could shape his journey as a father, a professional, and, above all, a man dedicated to forging a new path. "Jake," the principal began, his tone measured yet warm, "I wanted to discuss the impact your engagement at the school has had on the students, especially Ethan. Your involvement in his project today was inspiring." Jake felt a swell of pride at the principal's words. The fear that had clung to him began to dissipate, replaced by the sense of achievement. "Thank you. I want to be more present in his life. It means a lot to me." "It shows. And we're opening up opportunities for parents who want to engage more significantly with our programs. I believe you could contribute uniquely," the principal continued. "Would you consider facilitating workshops, perhaps on skills you developed as a mechanic? There's potential for hands-on learning and teamwork that could benefit the kids immensely." The suggestion struck him like a bolt of lightning. Jake had always been a problem solver, a fixer, not just of cars, but of connections, relationships, and now, it seemed, the future of the kids at the school. This was an invitation to take the lessons of his past into a realm where they could be transformed into something profoundly positive. "Wow, I would love to do that," Jake replied, his excitement bubbling over. This was more than an engagement. This was a chance to demonstrate to Ethan and himself that growth was a continuous journey. He would be modeling resilience, creativity, and commitment, a defining moment of transformation. As he left the office, buoyed by newfound enthusiasm, Jake realized he wore the mantle of a role he hadn't dared to dream of just weeks prior. This was not merely about responding to old inadequacies, but establishing a new narrative he and Ethan could share. The present was ripe with possibilities, not just for a father and son, but for a man willing to confront his past head-on and move forward. That evening, Jake sat with Ethan, excited to share his vision. "Buddy, guess what? I might get to help out more at your school, teaching some cool problem-solving skills." "Really? That's awesome, Dad." Ethan's face lit up, the pure joy radiating from him. "Will you teach everyone how to fix stuff?" "Yup, and I want you to be a part of it too. We could work together, make it fun," Jake said, his heart swelling at the thought of their shared journey solidifying even further. As the days went by, the energy in their home shifted. Jake felt empowered by his role in the school, and Ethan's excitement was contagious. They spent evenings brainstorming ideas, sketching out plans for workshops together, and brainstorming how hands-on learning could engage kids. Through this greater involvement, Jake established deeper connections within the school community. And more importantly, he further established himself as a present and confident figure in Ethan's life. He began volunteering, attending every meeting, supporting school events, and forging relationships with other parents. The weight of guilt from the past slowly faded, replaced by a profound sense of fulfillment. During evenings, as they sat together, Jake reveled in sharing stories of his day with Ethan, who listened with rapt attention. Oftentimes, the conversations would circle back to the principles of resilience Jake had learned in the mechanic shop, but now they were layered with the hopes of a father striving to leave a legacy of strength and determination. Weeks turned into months, and their bond flourished amidst the shared experiences. Jake had demonstrated to himself that he was a man capable and deserving of success, capable of rising above the traces of insecurity to embrace responsibility. Finally, at the annual school fair, Jake stood with pride as Ethan presented their workshop to peers and parents. "I want to teach everyone how to work together to solve problems," Ethan said into the microphone, his voice echoing with confidence. In a moment of clarity, Jake realized that the true essence of achievement wasn't just rooted in professional accolades, but lay in the connections he nurtured and the legacy he was creating in Ethan's life. Jake could see the results of his growth radiating in his son's unwavering confidence. Together, they were building a life rich with joy, trust, and bonding. That evening, Jake looked across the table at a smiling Ethan, feeling an indescribable sense of pride swell in his chest. No longer was he just a mechanic. He had evolved into a mentor, a role model, and a father in his truest form. Jake had achieved not only professional recognition, but solidified a commitment to being the best dad he could be. Embracing hope, integrity, and vulnerability had forged an unbreakable bond, a son and father now thriving in the light of their shared journey. As the night settled in, Jake smiled, reflecting on how far he had come. He had conquered self-doubt. He had taken on the challenges of parenting and work with vigor and creativity. And he knew that whatever obstacles awaited them next, he and Ethan would face them side by side, as a team forged anew in understanding. Now, true fans of personal overcoming stories, this is your moment to show support. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Seriously, it makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending below. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Jake's journey inspires us to push through our challenges.